Good evening, guys. This is our lesson on the elements of art. Our objective is to identify and recognize the use of elements of art in artworks. The elements of art and principles of design are the building blocks of all art, so it's really important that we understand these so we can use them and create successful pieces of art. The elements of art are what I like to call the ingredients of art. So these are the things that we use to create good pieces of art. So line, color, value, shape, form, space, and texture. And then we will use these to create the principles. But let's look at these a little bit in depth. So line is what I like to think of. It's the most foundational art element. So a line is a mark with a greater length and width, a continuous mark made on a surface by a moving point. So at the very basic, when you're just drawing a line across your paper, that is our art element. So this is an artwork by Jasper Johns that uses a lot of thick and kind of thin lines that are in all sorts of different directions, diagonals. This is an example by Pablo Picasso that also uses a lot of different types of lines. And then this is by J.M.W. Turner, who uses line from this bridge to point into the distance. So you can also use line as a tool to create movement, which we'll talk about a little later. So next is color. So color consists of hue, intensity, and value. Our primary colors are yellow, blue, and red. So we use these to create the secondary colors, which are orange, violet, and green. So artists can use color in a lot of different ways, but you can use it to create an emotion, to create emphasis. You can also use specific colors to create a color scheme in your work. So this work by Alexander Calder uses primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. So we would say that this has a primary color scheme. Next is value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. We also think about it as black to white when we're doing drawings in pencil or charcoal or any black medium. This is an example by Vincent van Gogh, who uses a variety of value from light to dark of those nice yellows. This is an example of a pencil drawing by C.J. Hendry that also uses a range of values from light to dark of the pencil. And then this is a print by M.C. Escher. So again, the range of light to dark. Next is shape. So shape is an enclosed area defined and determined by other art elements. Two-dimensional, that's what you really need to remember. They can be geometric or organic. So geometric shapes would be like circles, squares, stars. Think anything with an edge that's regular, like a math shape. Organic shapes are free-flowing, soft, naturey, things that aren't regular. So this is a work by Marc Chagall. And then this is a work by Joan Miro. So Miro also uses a variety of really flat shapes. Next is form. So form can be a three-dimensional object or something in a two-dimensional artwork that appears to be three-dimensional. So in drawing and painting, we're trying to create the appearance of form on a flat surface. So for example, a square, which is two-dimensional, so that would be a shape, is a shape, but cube is three-dimensional. So you take the square, which is a shape, and you draw out the angles to create a 3D appearance to it, which would make it into a cube, which is a form. And then here is an example sculpture from Rodin. Here are some paintings. These are still life paintings. And then in these, remember it's a painting, so it's a flat surface, but they're using the paint and their technique to create the appearance of form. So if you look up into the right corner of the painting by Audrey Flack, you can see that lipstick almost seems to be coming out at me. So you can create this appearance of form in drawing and painting. Next is space. So space is the distance or area between, around, above, below, or within things. So it could be positive, which is where the space is filled with something, and negative, which are the empty areas. So the space around this calla lily would be the negative space. The actual flower is the positive space. So in this painting by Claude Monet, you can also experience or describe space as distance in your work. So foreground, middle ground, and background. And what that does is creates depth. So the background is furthest, the middle ground is in the middle, and then the foreground is in the front. And you can create this in a variety of ways. So here is another example of a 3D piece of art that has positive and negative space. So the negative space around this sculpture, and then you can see the hole that's cut out is also negative space. So any space that the subject isn't occupying. And then this painting by Peter Bruegel the Elder has that sense of distance in space. So we have the foreground, what's in front, the middle ground, and then the background. And you can see the figures in the front are larger, and as you go off into the distance, things get more blue and smaller. So that is how you create space as far as depth. And then finally, texture. Texture is the surface quality or the feel of an object, its smoothness, roughness, or softness. Textures may be actual or implied. So implied just means that you can't actually touch it. So if you're drawing fur and you draw it really accurately, it might look like it has that texture, but it actually doesn't. So this is a painting by Ingrid Ching. This painting actually has surface texture because the way she applies the paint to the canvas. This is by Gerard ter Borch the Younger, and this has implied texture because you can look at that dress and imagine how silky smooth it is just by his application of paint and his technique. But if you actually touch that painting, it is going to be completely flat. So being able to render texture is a really good skill to have. Last is another example of actual texture. So you can see on this painting, she uses a tool and creates this actual raised portion in acrylic paint on her painting. All right, so in summary, the elements of art are the ingredients. The elements of art are line, color, value, shape, form, space, and texture. And you should be able to recognize the art elements in work of art and as we go on your own. All right, so our next thing is to review the principles. So I can't wait to see your little drawings and how well you did. Good job, guys.